In my FMO job, I had 19 staffed and unstaffed refuges that I had fire management responsibilities for. And 10 of those refuges had some grassland component to them. And we burned on all 10 of those refuges, some frequently and some infrequently. But wanted to talk a bit about grassland burning in the mid-Atlantic. I've done grassland burning in different places, Arizona, Florida. I wanted to talk a bit about what I did here in the mid-Atlantic. Most of those units were very small. I think the largest one was probably 200 acres, give or take. So we're not talking tall grass prairie with, thousands of acres stretching, from here to the horizon. Most of them had been agricultural fields that had been converted, either when the refuge took them over or converted subsequently as farming was phased out on the refuges, and they were either left to go, return to grassland naturally, or a lot of them were planted. A lot of the fields that we burned were what we generically refer to as switchgrass fields. Switchgrass is a species, but a lot of what was planted was, kind of that big blue stem kind of mixture that frankly resembled a lot tall grass prairie. But the planting was not necessarily native to this area, or the the density of planting definitely was kind of overdone.
Go ahead. Didn't any of that cause you any problems back there? No, everything's good. Alright, we're gonna move this engine on up and sort of have you guys trail on behind. Copy.
So what had spurred this grassland burning on a lot of these refuges was a breeding bird study that began back around 2000, and a lot of the refuges were enlisted in this study, and as part of the study, burning was one of the components. So that kind of got a lot of these refuges going on their grassland burning. Some of it continued, and a lot of it did not. So once the study itself was done, we maybe had done a cycle or two of burning. It ceased after that. A couple of them kept going. So refuges that wanted to maintain that grassland component on their properties, you end up incorporating burning, mowing, some herbicide treatments to maintain the grass. Everything pretty much was surrounded by forested areas, either hardwood, deciduous trees, or pine. So there was always going to be encroachment into these fields, and the only response to that, to maintain them, was either to mow them frequently, which is what most of the refuges did, or incorporate fire along with the mowing and occasionally herbicide to try and control that hardwood encroachment. Now, as you'll see in the videos and some of the pictures, we were doing initially a lot of dormant season burning, February, March time frame. Where we found that to be more effective was when we started transitioning into more of a growing season burn, more of an April time frame. We had a lot of resistance from some of the biologists who were more concerned with disrupting nesting birds. So we had to kind of do a dance with some of the biologists to push that time frame later in the year, when birds were nesting, but also when you had greater success with hardwood control. So you'll see a couple of the videos that I included where we were doing that burning in April. There's a lot of green visible. There's green in the fields. There's green, where we're burning, but we're burning through that green because you still have that cured vegetation mixed in that'll carry the fire. This is the beginning of the April 13, 2016 burn on the Hutchinson tract. Warm season grasses in various states. The fields to my left were burned last year, and the fields that we're burning now, 2 of the 3 fields were mowed last year, so they're much shorter structure, but still a fair amount of fuel out there, particularly when we get into field number 2, which was neither burned nor mowed last year. Had northeast winds forecast today. We're getting more easterly now, so we've adjusted our firing pattern a bit to compensate for that eastern wind. These cured warm season grasses are consuming completely. There's some green mixed in, which is setting it back, and then you can see quite a few green saplings out there of some hardwood intrusion into this field, and this fire will definitely set them back a few years. You'll see some examples of some different fire behavior. We have some backing fire. You'll see what we've done with some strip head fire. You'll see, that flame length on a head fire in these grassland fields, of 10 or 15 feet. Backing fire 2 to 3 feet. These fires generate an awful lot of heat. Those warm season grass fields that had been kind of had gotten snowfall on them, or had been compacted down a bit. They generate an awful lot of BTU.
Go ahead. Yeah, we'll have you sit on that corner and see if you can burn out. Copy.
Basically, every one of these units that we did had public roadways bordering them, had infrastructure near them, had utility lines. So even though we were doing relatively small units, there was a very high level of wild and urban interface associated with them.
depth is about 7,500 feet wide.
Way at the corner.
And I'm 40 buildings, 40 drag fire up.
Sounds good.
So we'll look through some of this grassland stuff, and then for the next video in this series, I think I'll talk about, as my friend Brian used to say, a grassland with trees, and that is a longleaf pine ecosystem.
Demolition derby, it's the sport of the hunt. Proud tribe and full war dance, it's the slow smile that the bully gives the run. It's the force of inertia, it's the lack of constraint, it's the children out playing in the